Do you know someone who went missing and was later found? Disappearances are often shrouded in mysteries. Such is the case of Miya Marcano, who disappeared into thin air. However, when she was finally found, it was in the most horrifying state imaginable. This recent crime story is about a beautiful teen who was murdered by a handyman who hid her body in the woods for 8 days. What's even worse is, even though the police know who the killer is, they could not apprehend him. Can you guess what happened to the murderer? Keep on watching because the details of this murder case will give you chills. Born on March 26, 2002, Marcano was a 19-year-old from Fort Lauderdale who was a gifted student, a family-oriented young woman, and a loyal friend. Marcano was about 5 feet and weighed 130 pounds. She also had brown hair and brown eyes. These details are important because they were in the missing persons report filed by the family when Marcano disappeared without a trace. Marcano lived a normal life until her story made it to national television. According to family members, Marcano skipped a trip to Fort Lauderdale and stopped responding to calls and texts from her family last week. Marcano was set to fly home after a long absence to see her parents. After finding that their daughter had never boarded a flight and had never returned home, her parents became aware of her abduction. Mia's parents were left with no choice but to inform the authorities. Deputies also asked for the public's help in finding Marcano's whereabouts as soon as possible. 8 days later, the body thought to be that of Miss Marcano was discovered in a wooded area near Timberscan Apartments in Orlando, about 20 miles from the apartment complex where she resided. "Our hearts are shattered," said Orange County Sheriff John Mina at a press conference. Valencia College also said in a statement, "The entire Valencia community is mourning the passing of one of our own." The case generated enormous public interest. More than 60 investigators were working on the case. 175 people, helicopters, and dive teams were used in the search effort, which covered 3 counties. Even the FBI announced that it was providing assistance to the sheriff's office with the investigation. Students at the university, which is in Orlando, Florida, played an important role in raising public awareness about Miss Marcano's disappearance. The residents of the apartment complex where she worked and lived recognized her. Some students knew her, and others lived in the same apartment complex as she did. On buildings and elevators around campus, flyers and posters had been spread, and student organizations were trying to raise awareness about her on social media. Also, when a woman is murdered, an intimate partner is often the main suspect, said Dr. Catherine Kelkanen, a professor of criminal justice at the University of Central Florida, and that's what led to a breakthrough in the case. For the first few days, authorities were still trying to determine the cause of death. Police said that Armando Manuel Caballero was a person of interest in Miya Marcano's disappearance. According to the sheriff, Mr. Caballero was a maintenance man at the Arden Villas apartment and had expressed a romantic interest in Miss Marcano, but she repeatedly rejected him. Caballero initially stated that he last saw Marcano at 3 p.m. on the day she went missing. The forensic team found out that the maintenance-issued master key fob, which Caballero was known to have, was used to access Marcano's apartment on the Friday afternoon she went missing. Detectives spoke to Caballero after the 19-year-old was reported missing, but had no evidence to detain him at the time. They obtained a warrant for his arrest after learning he had entered her apartment before she disappeared. However, they were 3 days too late. On September 27th, Caballero was found dead in the Camden Club apartments in an Orlando suburb, having apparently committed suicide. His body was found inside a garage. He was subsequently named the main suspect in her disappearance by the sheriff's department. Cell phone traces show that Caballero was near the Timberscan Apartments, where police believe Marcano's remains were discovered on the night she went missing. Sheriff Mina said he was there for about 20 minutes. Nothing in the records indicate that he even returned there prior to killing himself. According to the report, Miya Marcano died of homicide by undetermined means because her body was too decomposed after 1 week to tell how she was murdered. Just think for a second how crazy that is. In the medical examiner's report, there was black duct tape on Marcano's neck, binding both of her wrists behind her back and binding her ankles. After the autopsy was performed on October 3rd, the examiner wrote she was the victim of some type of assault, and it is possible the duct tape on her neck could have initially been covering her nose or mouth. Marcano's family confronted Caballero Saturday, September 25th around 3:45 a.m. while a deputy was present. During the conversation, Caballero said he had just learned of the woman's disappearance from a coworker. They released the video showing the conversation they had with him outside her apartment building.
As of right now, you have sent obsessive texts to Miya. We have all seen the text. You talked about giving her your life savings. You cash out her money, and you claim that you weren't in touch. There's evidence of obsession. You're fascinated with Miya.
It's not only from my side, so...
After months of investigation, a lengthy 135-page final report revealed new, pretty horrific details about the murder, including never-before-seen images of the 19-year-old from the day of her disappearance. One picture shows surveillance footage of Marcano leaving the Arden Villas in Orlando on September 24th. That day, as already mentioned, Marcano was supposed to leave for Fort Lauderdale that night, but she never made the flight, which concerned her family and alerted them to contact law enforcement. Another photo showed a small bookcase propped up against Marcano's bedroom doorknob, which appeared to be placed there to prevent anyone from entering the room from the outside, according to the report. Investigators also noted other things that were unusual for Marcano to leave behind in her apartment, such as jewelry on the floor, a bag that appeared to be the luggage she was going to use for her Fort Lauderdale trip, and her teddy bear that she never goes anywhere without. Detectives also found a pillow next to Marcano's bed with a small patch of dried red substance that appeared to be blood. Key fob data documented in the report shows her suspected killer, Armando Caballero, accessed Marcano's apartment using a master key shortly before she came home from work. Not only that, but the surveillance video also showed Caballero driving a golf cart around the complex near Marcano's, coinciding with the times the key fob showed it was used on her front door. Investigators said Marcano was likely killed in her apartment, then Caballero took her body to the wooded area. Marcano's body, which was found on October 2nd, was mostly skeletonized. She was found with her red purse and wallet, the same jeans she was wearing on the day of her disappearance, and a necklace with a charm containing her name, Miya. Detectives said they learned early on Caballero placed a fake maintenance call to establish an alibi around 7 p.m. on September 24th. The final report revealed the manager told deputies an emergency work order was placed from a residence in the same building as Marcano. After reviewing the phone number that placed the work order, officials said that it was a Google number registered to Caballero. As the final evidence, the report also showed investigators who performed a search warrant on Caballero's car after his death found duct tape under the passenger seat. Gabrielle Petito, a white woman, was reported missing just a month before this terrible incident, and her wildly discussed case raised new concerns about the tens of thousands of females and girls who are reported missing each year without being acknowledged, many of which are Black, Latina, or Native American. It also helped in giving the case of Marcano some national attention. At the moment, it's not known if someone else was involved in this crime scene. The authorities haven't shut the case completely either, so there is room for further investigation. Miya Marcano's family is still in mourning and has said they're still having a hard time processing the details of the murder. It is very likely Caballero murdered her. It must be a bittersweet feeling for them that he took his own life. However, that still doesn't justify his heinous crime. That's it for today, folks. What do you think about this crime story? Do you think someone else was involved who helped Caballero? Let us know in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for your regular dose of whodunits. And don't forget to leave a like. Until then, stay safe, stay warm, and don't get any crazy ideas.